Have you ever wondered how a small army, outnumbered 100 to 1, could make a mighty empire tremble? This is not a myth. It is a true story buried in history. A story where the weak stood against the strong, and the world never forgot what happened next. The empire was powerful. Its armies stretched across lands. Its soldiers carried the best weapons. Victory was almost always certain. Almost, because one day the impossible happened. On that day, a tiny force rose with nothing but courage, cleverness, and a desperate will to survive. They were not supposed to win. They were not even supposed to live. Yet their stand shook the pride of an empire. But how did they do it? What secret did they use? And what twist turned defeat into triumph? Stay with me till the end of this video, because the answer will surprise you. By the time the last word is spoken, you will know the incredible tale of the underdog army that made an empire tremble. The story begins many centuries ago, in a land ruled by a proud empire. This empire was feared across the region. Its armies crushed kingdoms, one after another, leaving behind smoke and silence. People believed no one could resist them. Every battle they fought seemed already won before the first arrow was fired. Their power was not just in numbers, but in reputation. Facing them was like facing death itself. But not everyone bowed. In a small corner of this vast empire, a weaker force refused to give up. They had fewer men, old weapons, and little hope. Yet they carried something stronger than steel. They carried courage and a reason to fight. What could drive such a small force to challenge giants? Was it revenge? Was it freedom? Or was it pure desperation? The answer lies in this forgotten battle, a clash that history tried to bury but could never erase. The empire was like a giant shadow stretching across the land. Its soldiers wore steel armor that shone under the sun. They carried sharp swords, long spears, and heavy shields. Each step of their march shook the earth. They were trained, disciplined, and confident. Every kingdom they met was crushed in days. To many, the empire felt unstoppable, almost like a force of nature. Now look at the underdogs. Their weapons were old. Many carried spears made from wood, or swords passed down from fathers. Their shields were cracked, and their armor was little more than cloth and leather. They had no great army, no endless supply of food or gold. They had only a handful of men compared to the empire's thousands. By every rule of war, they were doomed before the battle even began. But history has a strange way of turning weakness into strength. And on this battlefield, the underdogs were about to prove it. The empire thought the land already belonged to them. They demanded taxes, food, and soldiers from the smaller kingdoms. For many, saying yes was the only way to survive. But one small people said no. They were tired of being treated like slaves. They had little to give, but they still wanted their freedom. Their leader knew the cost of saying no. He was not a king with golden crowns or endless riches. He was a fighter who had lived through hunger and war. To his men, he was a voice of courage when hope was gone. He told them, "If we bow today, we will never stand again. But if we fight, even if we die, the empire will know we were not afraid." This leader also had something else, a sharp mind. He studied the land. He saw the rivers, the forests, the hills. He saw what the empire's generals could not. A chance, a weakness. The underdogs would not fight with numbers. They would fight with strategy. And soon, the empire would walk into their trap. The day of battle came. The empire's army marched forward, row after row, their armor shining under the morning sun. Their banners waved like rivers of color in the wind. From a distance, it looked like the earth itself was moving. They were certain of victory. To them, this fight was only another step in their endless march of conquest. The generals laughed, saying the enemy would break within the first hour. But the land told a different story. The battlefield was not open ground. It was full of narrow valleys, thick forests, and steep hills. To the Empire, these were just obstacles. To the underdogs, they were shields. The small army hid among the trees. They dug traps on the ground. They studied every turn of the hills, every shadow of the valley. While the Empire saw a weak force, the underdog saw a map of opportunity. The Empire was walking into a battlefield it thought it controlled, but in truth, it was stepping into a cage. The clash began with thunder. The Empire's soldiers charged, their shields locked, their spears pointed like iron teeth. The sound of marching feet rolled across the valley like a storm. The underdogs braced themselves. The first wave hit them hard. Steel met wood. Shields cracked. Men fell. For a moment, it seemed the Empire's prediction was right. The smaller army was breaking. But then something changed. A horn echoed from the hills. Out of the forest, hidden warriors rushed forward. Arrows rained down from above. The Empire, once so sure, looked around in confusion. Traps in the ground snapped shut. Horses stumbled. Soldiers fell into pits covered with branches. The narrow valley, which the Empire thought was safe, had become their prison. Still, the Empire pushed forward with numbers. Every step they took was heavy with confidence. But confidence alone could not protect them from shadows striking from every side. The underdogs were not fighting for glory. They were fighting for survival. And survival makes men fearless. The Empire fought with fury. Their soldiers pushed forward, swinging swords and raising shields. Step by step, they tried to crush the smaller force. But then, the land itself seemed to fight back. Warriors rained boulders and logs from the cliffs. The Empire's tight formations broke apart. Chaos spread through their lines. Their commanders shouted orders, but no one could hear over the thunder of the ambush. Men looked behind and saw enemies where they expected allies. Fear began to rise. And then it happened. The leader of the underdogs charged from the front, his sword lifted high. His voice cut through the noise like fire in the night. His men followed, their courage blazing. The Empire's army, once a wall of iron, now stumbled like scattered stones. For the first time, the mighty Empire trembled. The Empire's army broke. Men who once marched with pride now ran in panic. Their banners fell into the dirt. Their generals, so full of confidence, vanished in the chaos. The underdogs, bruised and bleeding, stood tall. They had faced a giant and lived to tell the tale. For the first time in memory, the Empire had tasted defeat. News of the battle spread like fire. Across the land, whispers grew louder. If a small, forgotten people could resist, then maybe others could too. The Empire's shadow no longer seemed unshakable. The leader of the underdogs did not call himself a king. He did not need a crown. His victory was his people's freedom, and that was worth more than gold. This battle was not just a fight. It was a message. Even the strongest empire can tremble when the smallest stand united. So there it is, the battle where forgotten people stood against a giant and made an empire tremble. What began as a fight for survival became a story that still inspires us today. If you watch to the end, here's your reward. The knowledge that history is filled with moments where the smallest voices change the world. And in our next story, we'll uncover another hidden battle that almost rewrote history itself. If you enjoyed this tale, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who loves epic stories, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because in history, the underdogs never truly disappear. They live on in every story we tell.